This time on PedalBox, we all get to feel really good about ourselves because we're going to tick off more work from our final, for now, jobs list than we ever have before. Hopefully. There's a whole bunch of bits on this car that we've been hinting at in the past, that we've showed you, that we've printed in the past, and that we've kept saying, well, it's all right, we'll do them off camera, they're not very interesting, and we've repeatedly not done them. So now we're going to point the camera at them, force ourselves to do them, and we're going to be bouncing around quite a lot because there's bits all over the place for us to catch up on. So we're going to be in the back of the car, and the front of the car, the middle of the car, and even under the car. So here is the list. Now, you've seen us make lists before, including this one, by going through the IVA book, going through the stuff that we had left to do and writing everything down. Now, we've obviously ticked off quite a lot, and this is everything that's left. So as far as we know, everything we have to do, albeit some of it's quite compressed on there, but everything we have to do is on there. So we've got kind of the whole spectrum. We've got some really, really easy stuff like wing mirror glass. You saw me holding a minute ago. We've also got some stinkers in there like the ECU. Obviously, we've tested all of our wiring already. You've seen us do that a good few months ago, but we still need to actually get an ECU and plug it in and make sure it all works and doesn't blow up, because I'm not sure if you remember, but our ECU is toasted. So there's a good breadth of stuff in here. There's some parts we need to 3D print that we've labelled. There's some parts that we think we're going to do today, /hope. And all round, we think we're in a pretty good place for finishing this project up. So today's goal, if we're really, really lucky, is we're going to try and tick off everything that has an exclamation mark beside it. So that's the indicator repeaters, the floor drains for the scuttle under the windscreen, the exhaust hangers, the head unit cage, the wiper motor mounting, the wiper washers, the air filter bracket, and the wing mirror glass. Obviously, some of these are really, really, really easy. Some of them might be a little bit trickier, like the floor drains, but they shouldn't be too hard. So we've had this thing printed for a good few years now, but we've never actually fully assembled it for the stupidest reason. We didn't have a bolt long enough to go through the whole hinge. So we've made one out of some thread bar and a nut. And now it's time, finally, to get it in place. That's nice and easy, just goes all the way around there. Let run through. Unfortunately, because we shortened them with an angle grinder, the ends are a bit messy, so getting the nuts onto them is sometimes a bit tricky, but it seems to be going well for me so far. So that's the first job done. Moving quickly on, exhaust hangers. We've got rubber ones on here. We replaced them a few years ago, but they have rotted, cracked, and the exhaust has sunk down and is now resting on the diffuser. So obviously they don't last very well. So we put a red poly bush on a while ago as a test, and it seems to have held up okay, but we, for some reason, only have one of it. So Aid's gone and got a whole set of 4 new polyurethane exhaust hangers, and I've got to be honest, these things are hard as hell. So hopefully the exhaust won't sag with these on. How's that for the easiest exhaust removal you've ever seen? So you can see the cracking quite badly in there, and also on the back. Whereas the poly bush has stayed in really good shape. I'm not sure if it's a bush, but the polyurethane hanger has stayed in really, really good shape. Well, now that we've got the exhaust out of the car and we've had a look at these things, we have pretty quickly found a problem. Although the holes on these are exactly the same size as the rubber and red polyurethane ones that we've previously used, these have absolutely no give in them. Now, the lack of give is kind of a surprise. We thought we'd end up with something kind of more like this, which is it's kind of tricky to squeeze by hand, but you can see it is actually flexible. What we got was something that's a bit more like this, and I can't bend this just as much as I can't bend that. So these don't fit, but that's fine. We've got drills, so we're going to hog it out to 14 mil and pop it over the end. Well, that nearly worked, I guess. We've drilled them all out to 14 mil now, which means they do fit over, with a bit of work, but they fit over the ends of all of our mounting pins. And on the exhaust itself, it's kind of okay. They're quite loose, but it's a small enough gap that we could probably take it up with a bit of weld. Unfortunately, on the mounting arms we built for the body, that is absolutely not the case. There's an enormous amount of like wobble room in this. The exhaust would just be wobbling around all over the place, probably more than we can really build up easily. So it looks like the sensible play here is actually to find some more of these. Now, I have just noticed there's a VWRD part number on them, so we probably can order them, but it is a bit of a shame because these were £10, and I suspect these are not. Although they're wrong, we're going to charge ahead and throw them all on anyway, just because, you know, we're here, the exhaust's out, we may as well. So we're going to offer everything up, get it all back in, and then once it's all back together, just for fun, we'll show you just how wobbly and loose this whole assembly is.
Scoops in round the back of it anyway.
So we've put the thing back in place, and now let's see how much it rattles. Quite a lot. Don't really like that very much. So we're going to try something really, really dumb with the old degraded rubber mounts. We're going to wrap them all up in zip ties and see how that works. So now with our zip tied together mounts, the exhaust still moves, like it wobbles around some, but it doesn't rattle freely like it did on these, which is a huge improvement. Moving on, wing mirrors. There's not really a lot to talk about here. It's cracked and it's blue, and we don't like either of those things. So, new glass. Moving forward, we've got a couple of little drain holes here in the scuttle. Now they're quite small and they clog a lot, so we're going to bore them out, but also they are literally just holes. There's no actual drain on them, so all the water that comes through just drips down into the inside of the car. So we're going to weld on some little metal tube onto the bottom and then run a rubber pipe all the way down to the floor so that the water, rather than collecting on all of our nice wooden floor, actually gets ejected out of the car. That's taking more doing than I expected. This isn't a very fun weld because it's upside down under the scuttle. There's very little access and no real way to get like hands in from both sides. So to try and hold everything together, I've got some copper brake line here that we pulled off of one of the dead ones on the car. I'm going to drop that down through the pipe to try and keep everything lined up. And I'm going to try and like bend the ends over so that it holds itself in place. If I do that, the top is held in, and if I kink the end of the brake line over, it should hold the bottom of the pipe as well. At least that's the plan. Yeah, it's a bit loose, but I think if I hold one end up, which I can do from the top, I think we should be good. And I also don't have room for my proper goggles, so I'm wearing my little mad scientist... Sorry, I haven't got room for my visor, so I'm wearing my little mad scientist goggles, which they're just permanently dim. They're not auto-dimming, so seeing anything is tricky at best. But it looks like we're lined up, so if I can just hold that there, I should be able to get the torch in with my other hand and get a nice spot weld on. So if someone could turn on the welder for me, please. That's one little bit. Now, can I get one from the front outside corner? I don't think I can. This is always the challenge with some of this stuff, is like just trying to figure out where you can get the drill, the welding torch, anything to try and do the thing that you need to do. There we go. I think we're on. Don't worry about the smoke, it's just a rubber washer that's probably caught fire. But this should now, if I can just unkink that end, should just pull out. Next up, the side repeater indicators. We've run wires into the front corners to test them, make sure the electronics work, make sure the indicator relay and everything works, but now it's time to wire them into their proper homes in the wings. We've got the enclosures already fit, we know the bulbs fit the enclosures, and we know that when we pop this all into place, that's all happy. So now all we've got to do is get 12 volts to there, ground it locally, and we're away. So using more of our little self-sealing heat shrink solder connectors, I'm just going to pop one on there. I've already stripped that end off, so it's nice and easy. Oh, I've already put the joiner on there. It's a gentle heat as usual. There we go, I think I just saw the solder start to flow. And probably our last little job for today, we're going to put the Riv Nuts in that hold our handbrake cable guides in the transmission tunnel of the car, or at least what used to be the transmission tunnel until we took the transmission out of it. So a riv nut, in case you haven't seen before, is basically like a rivet. So you drill a hole in some piece of bodywork, put the rivet through, crank the handles down, and it kind of flares the riv nut out at the back and holds it in place in the car. And you've got a threaded insert that you can run bolts into. So we've drilled some holes in the body. We're going to pop one of these through, clamp it all in place, and then we'll be able to bolt our handbrake cable guides into the body. So, under I go.
Some time later.
And with that, and with my arms both completely destroyed, we are done with the handbrake cable guides, which is a huge relief because I'm absolutely knackered. And just like that, it's time for me to run off back to Pembrokeshire, but we have managed to get 5 items off our hit list. So that's 33, I think, are on there. So we're now down to 28, which is pretty good progress. It's much faster than we've been in recent times, so hopefully we can keep the momentum up next time I'm here. Well, thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this quick whistle-stop tour of kind of all over different bits of the car and enjoyed seeing us making some nice little bits of awkward fiddly progress. If you want to support us in our work, now granted, none of it was particularly expensive this time, but the ECU will be. If you want to help us out with that, you can jump on shop.pedalbox.show where you can buy any of the t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, etc. that, as usual, I have failed to represent with. And if you want a bit of a discount at the store, you can also jump on patreon.com/pedalboxshow where you can support us from anything above $1 a month. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.